Welcome to Canada's podcast. Hi, everybody. I'm at the Village Studio in Grimsby in Niagara region, for those that don't know this part of the world. And, after a big eclipse day yesterday, I'm here to interview an old friend of mine, Bryan Macaulay, who has run a very successful photography business called Village Studio, and is just going through some significant change and a little bit of expansion here. And he's got a really interesting entrepreneurial story, I think. So we'll go through our normal process, but first of all, welcome to Canada's podcast, Bryan.
Thanks, buddy.
And why don't you just sort of spend a couple of minutes, let everyone know who you are, what you do,
Sure.
et cetera, and then we'll get into the interview.
Sure. So I'm Bryan, and I'm a portrait and wedding photographer. This is year 47 for me. And I'm very fortunate that I love what I do every day. I go from photographing a 50th anniversary to a newborn baby, to wedding photographs. So it's, and everybody I see really cares about the people that they're with. So I feel very fortunate.
Now, why did you move to entrepreneurship? And I know your dad sort of started the business, but why did you get into it?
Basically? Well, in the beginning, honestly, it was just to spend a bit more time with him, because this was his part-time gig. He was a teacher and did photography on the weekends, and then opened the shop in 77. And I just started working then and was painfully shy, I have to tell you, especially when high school. And this was a way for me to be creative, but it also fixed that shyness. I certainly, myself in high school, could not imagine me doing this right now.
So why did you do it then?
Well,
why didn't you get a real job?
That's a good question. I've never had a real job. This is it. But this was a job before I took ownership. And I was, okay, it's time to get to work. It's 5 minutes to when I need to be there. And it's 5 minutes before I'm finished. So I was punching clock in and out. And it just really wasn't that enjoyable. As soon as I bought into the business, I was there half an hour to an hour early, staying late, working Sundays, working evenings. And honestly, I have always loved it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy being an owner or entrepreneur, as you say. But I truly have, and I wouldn't change a minute of it.
Now, I often ask people about their challenges. I think anybody knows that photography business,
the industry has changed.
Completely changed in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that part of the journey, survival.
Well, yes. So as an example, when my parents first started, we had a separate room dedicated. We called it the projection room. And this is when we had movie projectors and slide projectors that we could show the different models to clients. Nobody's doing that now. There's no need. And we sold film cameras and film. We used to do 40 and 50 rolls of film developing a day. And now none of that is relevant. Now, having said that, I may offend some people who love film. It's just because the film developing game is a numbers game, because the machinery likes to work. And it does a poor job if you're not doing enough of it. So that's why I got rid of my mini lab. Not sure if I answered your question.
Well, I was more concerned about, the type of business that you did, where you generated your revenue, changed.
Yes, and
how did you manage? That's a challenge, because probably film processing, like most people in the business, was probably the bread and butter, the recurring revenue stream that was pretty solid.
Yes.
With that gone, what did you do to stay in business?
Well, actually, a little bit of a ship without a rudder for a while. But truly, tracking and planning and marketing is key, because like you can see those when those trends are starting to happen, just from monetary going, wait a minute, we did, I just found some numbers from early 2000s when we were doing like 40 and 50 rolls of film a day, and we tracked it daily, weekly, and monthly to see how many rolls we were doing and what difference back in those days a newspaper had made. And now we do the same kinds of things with the different marketing tactics that we use, just to make sure that things are going well. And if something's not performing, we got to tweak it or change.
So why didn't you get into selling more equipment, more cameras?
We used to sell more cameras, but back in those days, a single lens reflex 35 millimeter camera would probably take me, if I'm going to sell you a 35 millimeter camera, you're going to spend $400 or $500. That's going to take me half an hour to an hour, right? Because I got to give you all the facts and benefits. And honest to goodness, I didn't make $20 selling. So I just looked at that and thought, if I can concentrate on where the money is, and that is in the photo finishing, that's what we did. And that's where we had the recurring people coming back. And of course, night school was also something that made our clientele very loyal.
Okay, good. So you face a lot of challenges. Have you sort of discovered a process that you follow to overcome the challenges?
Like a template.
A template that says, "Oh, this is crapping out on me. Where do I go now?" Kind of thing.
Not really. I'd love to say I'd love it. I could. It would be great, but not really. I do have people that help me. Brooke does a lot of my admin, and we have spent a big part of today looking at some of those bigger picture things to sort of analyze how a particular special did last year, whether we do it again this year. I have a paid social media marketing person. So as an example, I can tell you that I have a paid Facebook ad that is very targeted for passport photographs. And I just spend $5 a day. But I can tell you, based on the numbers, that my number of sales, and I'm sorry, I don't have these figures top of head, but we were up like 70% over last year because of that. Well, there's a couple of factors. Certainly, COVID's over and people can travel, and people do want to travel now. And plus, I was spending $5 a day to say that we're the best at this.
But it's a sort of a discipline. I mean, I've done it for a while, and
a while, been a while.
We've had some good conversations, and I know you kind of stumbled along for a while. Is there some, through that kind of fog, whatever? Is there some? Is there something you can say to people to recommend how they handle the situation? Because I know you've been worried at times.
Yes.
But here's my friend Bryan, and we'll talk a bit about growth and stuff like that in a minute. But
well, I would suggest that investing in yourself is important. So I've been part of a BNI for five years, and when I first joined, there was a men's business coach. And I thought at the time, man, I hope your wife's got a good job, because he's so specific in what he did. Anyway, he and I ended up working together for 3 years and showed me that investing in a business coach is the best thing. It gives me the tools to be able to handle the things that you've been talking.
And what about you? We were talking before we came on camera. What about, we were talking how the business has changed, how, all your competitors disappeared. Yeah. And you were saying, but there's people coming back into the new strictly digital world. What about that? I mean, this is partly, people listen to you, learn from you, not saying you want tons of competitors in Grimsby or anything, but
I honestly don't think there's any competitors. My clients are my clients, and they're not going to go to somebody else. I instead of competitors, I have friends and colleagues in the business. And I refer to them. I refer clients. If I don't do something well or they do something better than I do, I will refer a client to them. And I would like to think they do the same for me. I know they do. So I'm sorry, I lost track of the question.
Well, I lost track of it.
Sorry. Yes. I used to have more people who closed up and went out of business.
That's right.
And now there's lots of new people coming in. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a traveling minister, and he was saying that there's a young female photographer in St. Catharines who will photograph your wedding for under $700. She here memory card, and she takes that and takes it to Walmart after the end of the wedding. Well, truly, you have to be aware of what's going on at that low price point. There's buyer beware. You have to be cautious of what you're doing, and so much so even the preacher was concerned about the quality of the images.
Canada's podcast is your gateway to success in the world of entrepreneurship. Start listening today. Canada'sPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
So let's move on to some lessons. First of all, your own lesson. If you could go back in time and be 25 again.
Yeah.
No, what advice would you give yourself?
Spend more time investing in me. That's what I would have started business. Oh, having said that, I'm listening to a new audiobook, Think and Grow Rich, new to me. I read the book when I was 25, but I wasn't ready for it. So they say that, the secrets are going to jump off the page for you, and they are now, but they weren't when I was 25. So it's again, investing in yourself. I took a Dale Carnegie when I was when I was about 25, life-changing, because as I said, I was painfully shy, and that broke me out of that. So I would definitely do that again.
So you were talking about coach, and mentoring so darn important.
Yeah.
Coach is a professional mentor, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
I was ask this because it's so important. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received that you kind of keep in your hip pocket there, and it's all you say, oh shit, yeah. Okay.
But it's not a secret. But so few people do it. Write them down. Look at your goals and say, okay, I got them. Write it down. It when you physically put pen to paper, it makes sometimes just psychological difference, but it makes a difference. And then look at it and look and grade yourself to see how you're doing.
Yeah. Well, maybe not write it down. If I write, I can't read my own writing.
I can. Nobody else can.
Knowing the business you're in, what advice would you give to somebody, that might have just left Humber, having gone through all that stuff and the diploma and everything,
yes,
and saying, I want to
do this. This is what I want to do for a career.
Yeah.
Walk before you run, because it's so easy to throw money at something. And right now in this economic environment, the government is making it easy to get a little bit of money. So for somebody brand new, they can jump into some debt pretty quickly. And just be cautious. Do not overspend on camera equipment, because it's just a black box. A camera truly is just a black box. It does not matter. I happen to be a Nikon guy. My young assistant laughs at me. She's a Sony girl. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's really, really good. Now, part of the challenge thing, and I'm going to do this. Your biggest challenge was, through over a decade, surviving in a business that was transformed.
Flex. It was in flux.
Transformed.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Tell us how you're dealing with this new challenge that you've got.
exactly the same way. Looking at it.
Maybe tell people what the new challenge is, because they don't know.
In terms of the new business. So
Yeah,
I just moved my studio. This is week 2 in my new space. I was on Main Street in Grimsby for 30 years and loved it. Great space. But I had this opportunity to come in and move in with a special effects art shop, custom framing. And I'm in the process of that. We're coming together. And it works. There's so many synergies between custom framing and photography. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very excited about that, making a couple of changes in the store. But also, Main Street in Grimsby is going to be a bit of a construction site for the next 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. I think South Century condos are coming to town. I think that's a good thing.
I do too. Yeah.
Truly, like people living in a downtown, you have an automatic customer base, but they have to build it. And it's going to be a construction site for a while. And then the town of Grimsby needs to change the water main in downtown Grimsby. Mm-hmm. So they told us that it is going to be closed for 8 to 12 months. And then they dropped the 8. And so I talked to a town employee and I told them, I said, I think it's going to be 12 to 15 months. And he's like, yeah, probably. And then Grimsby Reimagined wants to change downtown to be more pedestrian friendly. And there's several models to do that. But all of them take some parking away from the main street. And I was reading News Now, Mike Lilliscraft's article, and he quoted someone from a developer saying that Grimsby people are spoiled in terms of having parking right on Main Street. And I honestly found that somewhat offensive. And I said to Mike, I said, when he was interviewing me, I said, I've had a front row seat on Main Street for 30 years, and that parking is used every single day.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
All right, let's do sort of come to a conclusion. I have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 rapid fire questions that I always ask people.
Yep.
Okay. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing instead?
Still something in the business ownership realm.
Mm-hmm. What book are you currently reading, listening to, and would recommend to the audience?
Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People.
You're a morning or a night person?
Morning.
Morning?
Yeah.
Okay. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would it be and why would you choose it? Okay, you can have 2.
No. I try to be humble.
He does, actually.
Well, thank you.
I know. Well, what's keeping you up at night these days?
Moving. This is week 2 and it's been challenging. So I think it's like, oh, I forgot that. It's at 3:00 in the morning when I'm not.
But you have a new challenge and new growth area.
Yes,
so
absolutely. It's very
that's
exciting.
Pretty cool.
Yes.
Okay. We're about done, Brian.
Right. This is fast.
Where can people find you online if they like what they're hearing, want to get some advice and give you a shout?
Absolutely. Instagram at Village Studio Canada, Facebook Village Studio, my website villagestudio.ca. But don't be too critical. I have updated it with my new address and stuff.
Okay. All right. Brian, thanks very much for coming on the Canada's podcast. It's been great having you.
Good.
Nice to get down to the new studio as
thanks,
well.
buddy.
And, take a listen and we'll speak soon.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.